Well, okay. Welcome everybody to number three. So, we have a very, very special guest today, and I want to start the episode or the session with as we will find out on my channel, three is the key. So, I wear triangles, I like geometry, and this is my third session with a very, very, very special human being. And it seems we are without shortage of amazing human beings. And I just want to highlight some of the people that have really came on and came through for me in a difficult time in my life. And Reagan Keeley did just that. She has a very, very grounded teaching. She is a energy healer, a Reiki master, a clairvoyant musician. And if that isn't enough, she's a writer, she's a course creator, and she's an all-around amazing person that I've really, really enjoyed getting to know over the last year. So if you want to find out more about her work, she's obviously on YouTube. Her channel is Transforming the Darkness. It's amazing. We'll have everything in the description. And she also has a website, transformingthedarkness.com. And she has an activating clairvoyance course as well. We will link to all those places, and I really want you to all check her stuff out. It's really grounded. It's very holistic. It's very expansive. It's a very vast. The content that you create is just so vast and connected. It reminds us of our worth. She speaks a lot about sovereignty, standing in your power, setting boundaries, and really getting into the subtle energy of our lives and figuring out a way to help us navigate. If anything, she's helped me to navigate a very chaotic time in my life. You know, COVID and that whole thing did a thing to the world, and it kind of turned my life upside down a little bit. I didn't really have much direction, and coming across your content is just one of the major foundations in me being able to turn the corner even when nothing, the appearance of my situation didn't look good at all. But for whatever reason, you and a couple of other amazing people that have shown up in my life, definitely feeling a new energy, a new vitality, a new understanding. And God, there's just so much on my mind because the things you discuss are so vast and expansive. So we're really here to encourage people, to inspire them to change their lives and to just really increase the awareness of our lives. And I think Reagan speaks to every single one of these things. She leads group meditations and does some other really amazing guided work that you can find on her YouTube channel as well. But I guess my first question, and I want to welcome you to the Pneuma of Now podcast, episode 3, Reagan Keeley. And my first question is, do you have any more group meditations planned, or what do you see there in the future?
Well, thank you so much, Richard. It's such an honor to be here. I'm really excited. And yeah, there's all kinds of things in the work as far as mass meditations. I am planning one for June 6th on my YouTube channel because there's some special numerology going on there. And, I think it's kind of an interesting number because it will be three sixes, and a lot of people have fear around that, but it's like, we can always take that fear narrative and flip it into something benevolent and beneficial for humanity. So that's my goal.
Absolutely. A lot of the intentions that we put behind things and negative connotations, I love that you flip it and reverse it. And I really wanted to also introduce the audience to a phrase that you taught me, saturated gratitude. And obviously, there's this attitude of gratitude that's being taught around the world right now. And I think that is a pivotal part of what you teach. You speak on that a lot, but then you dovetail it in with other concepts. But I am just super saturated with gratitude to have you on. And where this conversation is going to go, nobody really knows. We're just both going to kind of go into flow here. And that's what I respect about your work is your vulnerability, your courage, your intellectual courage, to just come on and kind of give an energy update to your audience and your viewers without like a script or notes or outlines. And that's just super inspiring in itself. So, do you have an energy update for the viewing audience? Just, almost like a collective overlay that you're sensing into in this, maybe in the last week or so, or maybe a short projection into the future. Are we still Mercury retrograde?
Yes, we are Mercury retrograding still. I think until like what, 2 more weeks about. So yeah, it's so fascinating. Well, especially nowadays, everything is just changing and shifting so fast that it's like you could almost do an energy update for like every day or like even every hour, honestly. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just so interesting. It can really feel like just like such a I don't know, like the culmination continuing to intensify, and people continue, it's kind of like a twofold thing where it's like people are continuing to wake up, and those who are awakened are continuing to build themselves and heal themselves and start, doing what we're doing now and collaborating and connecting. And, I've, been awake since 2012. So, for me, I see so much progress that it just makes me excited, 'cause it's like not comparable, it's like we really are building something completely new, going into this new territory of integrity and love and wisdom. But then there's on the other hand, you have this matrix that is completely crumbling and getting more absurd and chaotic by the day. And for me, I see that as, it just has to unfold. It just has to happen. Like that's part of the awakening. It's like this really, so I guess that's kind of like the overall continuation, I guess, energy update I would say is, it's like we're getting more empowered and we have access to more light than we've ever had before, at least in a very, very, very long time. And at the same time, like the world is going to continue to get weirder, and fall apart. And yeah, it's kind of weird because it's like, it might seem scary, but a lot of the things that are falling, it's kind of necessary because the system is so built upon slavery and tyranny and manipulation, so it's not sustainable, so it has to crumble. And at the same time, and I do believe there's a divine guidance, a divine timing. We are, becoming more connected to who we are, more connected to nature, more connected to the natural order of things. So I think we're going to continue to feel that and feel more empowered and have these opportunities. That's kind of what I feel like, transformation just constantly, just like these transformational opportunities to expand into things that we never even knew was possible. I look at myself even just a couple weeks ago and I'm like, who is she? It's like I feel like I've been able to just grow so fast, by tuning into this heart, into this flow, into this knowledge, even through the darkness and the fear and the anxiety, just like continuing to show up every day and, have faith because it always passes and it's always worth it.
Yeah, I was actually going to talk to you about or ask you about that faith piece. But first, I think that we have something in common with kind of an admiration for Buckminster Fuller. And so he's got some amazing quotes. You never change things by fighting the existing system. You have to build a new model that literally renders the other model obsolete. And the idea there is that with the right mindset, the right intent, and the right tools used for the right purposes, we can move humanity towards a livingry as opposed to the weaponry. And any technological advance, and I talk about this on my channel in different videos, we won't do that now, but any technological advance is a tool with intent. It can be used to harm, it can be used to heal. And so there's that healing piece, there's that faith piece. Like, is the world going to have a chance at this, like what I would call a higher octave harmony and cooperation from that heart space? And so I love talking about the heart space. And I don't know when I woke up. I've had these weird, just alternative states of awakening and awareness descend upon me at various times in my life. And each and every time, it's just beyond words. You talk about that a lot too, is like sensing into this feeling that comes about us without having to actually give it a story or a narrative or, words fail to describe the oneness and the wholeness that we can really feel for each other and for ourselves. And if I was to give my own personal energy update about what I'm sensing in the world, it feels like hearts are open. I've gotten myself out of a hermit mindset a little bit and started getting out in the world more and taking on a second job. And like you were just saying, 2 or 3 weeks ago or a month ago, who is that guy? I'm working more now than I ever have with increased vitality and increased awareness. And when I walk into my new place of work, I am radiating my light, and people notice. And even if they don't notice on a conscious level, they're noticing like, what's that dude all about? So I have some interesting things going on at work. Our one of the restrooms is behind where we all have to work, and there's a yellow brick road. There's like yellow tiles that point to the restroom, and people come back there and they're all confused. And we're like, follow the yellow brick road. And then I echo, but you're not in Kansas anymore. And like, whole thing that happens, and people are just like, thank you for your hard work. They get to come back and see how much work and effort goes into serving a meal, because it's kind of unusual to have a restaurant and a bathroom behind the kitchen. However, it's just really interesting to be that close quarters with human beings face to face again, because I took 3 years to just stop. I dismantled from everything, canceled Hulu, canceled Netflix, canceled this. Every single subscription service is dead now. Now, that's just what I had to do to get clarity and to focus on changing my life in putting it on a trajectory that is healthier and more in line with my values. And you've watched me kind of go through that journey a little bit with your community, with the activating clairvoyance. I want to say hello to all the clairvoyagers out there. This is a
Hello.
surprise. We've been keeping a little surprise for one of Reagan's communities, and it's been so heartwarming for me to find a place where I can be my weird, kind of off-beaten path. I mean, you've inspired me to just kind of put my weirdness on the stage, and I've been talking about a YouTube channel for 10 years, and really just seeing your effortless ease and really tuning into your energy signature, it really has helped me a great deal. So I mean, I can't talk about that enough. But is there any piece that I just went through that you want to pick up on?
Wow, so much, so much. You just said so many beautiful things. Speaking of the heart, I do believe that, Earth is the heart planet. Earth is actually, the word Earth is like an anagram for heart. So I definitely feel that's happening, and I feel like that's part of the natural awakening process is, um, it's not going to happen through like trying to force people. It's through people coming into their own heart and they come into their own natural alignment.
Yeah, and it takes
Is
time.
my connection okay? I noticed it was.
Yeah, it's coming through a little bit. Sometimes if I shift it around, we're just gonna keep on going. Whatever happens, I can hear you. You got the good audio. But yeah, it takes time to build that heart muscle. It's like people are in their heads so much, and I know I was. I've had 3 or 4 kind of blossoming of heart energy over the last 2 or 3 years, and then getting back out in the world and actually experimenting with that, like in live one-on-one, where people can feel your energy. It's just amazing, and the breathing, that breath as technology. That's like we think we're a technologically advanced society or civilization, but the technology is all in the body. And something I've read is, all roads lead to Rome, but all great roads of knowledge lead back to the human body. And when we can really understand the heart and the breath and the systems in play that help us to be more human, it's almost like we forgot how to breathe. That's a discussion we're having in one of your communities. So it's just so fascinating. Can you talk about your journey with the breath, and maybe have you discovered that in recent years, or has that been, how's that happened for you?
Um, yeah, I feel like that's a journey that, you continue to deepen into something as simple as the breath because it's the most profound thing, that's a lot of you find the most potent medicine is the medicine that you were naturally equipped with. So it's like that medicine of the breath and, being mindful of the breath is like it's unbelievable. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, you can have very psychedelic experiences just through your own breath, so that I think that says a lot.
No, it definitely does. I studied the transformational breath modality, which is kind of a circular breathing.
Mm.
You just do the deep down from the belly. See, our civilization, as far as I know, we have a shallow chest breath, which is just anxiety ridden from the get go. Anybody that has anxiety or even just, being uncomfortable in their own skin, I think this would describe me. It's like I had to get deep into the breath before I started feeling comfortable in my own body. And so I don't really understand all that. But like it's linked to traumas and energy blockages in the body. Can you speak to that in any way, as far as releasing those traumas, even if they're unconscious? Like things that were, we don't even have a story, or we don't even have an event in our past that's a negative event. But the breath for me is, I think, opening up that, because I've got energy, like I don't know if it's kundalini energy or chi or ki, but when I go into that deep breath, that psychedelic state, that open, it even takes me a little while to get back to where I can speak again after an hour breath session. Like it's this unbelievably therapeutic thing that's really changed my life. I've been doing that for about 3 years now.
Wow. Something you remind me of that's really profound that I've heard is, breath is like a metaphor in the sense that, if you're breathing shallow, and yeah, I live chest breathing almost all my life. It was actually just a few years ago. I was like, oh wow, I'm literally only breathing through my chest. So that was a huge game changer for me, and most people are because it's just, we're literally programmed to be in that survival mode. Um, so like it's the breath is like a metaphor. Like if you're only taking in, we're literally surrounded by chi energy, by prana energy. We have infinite, infinite love light, infinite source within us. Infinite, if once we start opening that and allowing it just through our intentions, um, so it's kind of a metaphor. If you're only breathing so shallow, you're only taking in so much energy. So it also obviously it affects, your natural abundance, not just financially, but abundance of inspiration, of creativity, of vitality. And again, I think a lot of it, speaking of trauma and healing, which is such a big topic because we're going to be healing for a long time, and we get better at it because it's like, yeah, the unconscious stuff. I mean, in my own experience, it's like we have our trauma, it doesn't matter, how good your life was. It's like we all have trauma. And then we even have, this collective um, trauma, the ancestral trauma, just the programming that is creating this um, like kind of like willing slave mentality that humanity's been in, that it's just so important that we start to really reprogram and think for ourselves and stop looking at the external authority like they're the authority, because that is how we give our power away, when it's truly, the living God within that is our true authority, that is the actual supreme authority.
Absolutely. It's just so beautiful. Another part of your teaching that really has struck me is this infinite worth, and I've been having this conversation with anybody who will listen. If I can encourage somebody, it's just fascinating how these ideas percolate and ripple in the pond. And I've been sharing saturated gratitude with people. I've been sharing your infinite worth, but the way I describe it is like, look, there's only one Reagan. Your experience is infinitely worth because you're precious, because there's only one of you. Like what's valuable in the world is precious stones because they're rare, but being an absolute unique extension from the one divine blueprint. We are infinitely worthy. Like, it's just kind of like duh. But we listen to this lady named Tara Brock. Not sure you've ever heard of her. She's kind of a Buddhist philosophy, but she's on YouTube, hundreds and thousands of videos. But she talks about the trance of unworthiness that we all fall into, and then getting out of the trance. You know, how do you wake up? And this kind of goes in line with some of my thoughts about waking up. I think spirituality in general can kind of be simplified by using the awake language, but like in a real way. So, but the word lucid is like lucid dreaming. And so we can talk about dreams here maybe a little bit because I love that topic. But being lucid awake. And so the word I have for it is lucidicism as opposed to mysticism. So when I hear the word mysticism, it's a little bit misty and foggy. There's not much clear sight. It's so nebulous. Anytime I read on mysticism, I really like it, but everybody has their own little idea. But then there's this idea of lucidicism where you're just vibrantly awake and aware. And I think that should, I'm trying to define that. I like to make up new words. We're going to talk about that next week in my fourth interview. So a lot of the conversations we're having just are going to segue in with so many different people's teachings. And it's like, I think you said this perfectly. Like, there's a new nuance, there's a new depth to all these concepts that as I really get down and study and take notes and actually like think this stuff out, I'm just like, wow, the light on this planet right now is unbelievable, but it looks weird to people who just are not there yet. And it's okay. Everybody's where they're at. There's no judgment. We can't go around just dragging people to whatever level we think we're at. And as long as we are humble and recognize that this is a journey and never ending process. So I call it process science. And when we can set some of these things in motions, I know you have some formulas of kind of getting into the clairvoyant state or the trance state for automatic writing. I love these ideas of formulas, even though we don't have to be strictly following a formula. So, do you want to maybe, I guess one of my questions, because it's one of my core interests, is any advice for kind of opening up those pathways to automatic writing and what some people would kind of call channeling? Because that's just a fascinating topic. When I go breathe and when I go meditate, I feel like there's another language available to me. So just wanted to ask you that.
Yeah, that's an amazing question. It's honestly one of my core interests as well. And I guess the first thing I would say is that, channeling is something that is actually very natural and innate. It's actually built into our body. It's a very ancient thing. It's not like a new age thing. It's, something that, that's how, ancient people were able to have so much wisdom is because they were so open to receiving that. And I guess the first thing I would say, for the absolute beginners, if that's like totally new to you, because truly anyone can do this. I guess the first thing, just to be beginning to intend, you know what I mean? Beginning to intend to start channeling and I guess like just asking, whatever you feel comfortable with, asking God, asking the universe, your higher self, angels, um, because it really isn't like some rigid thing, there's no specific thing you have to do. All you really have to do is be sincere and be honest. And that's the very beginning of starting to open up those channels if you haven't already. And then it's a matter of like intuition, like really honing in on your natural intuition. Some people, there's different ways, some people they can feel it, that's kind of where I started. Usually people are more inclined in one area or another. Some people are very visual. They can really see, um, in their mind's eye. Or some people hear, they'll hear it, or they'll just like download concepts. And, anyone can do any of these, but usually, you have something that you're most gifted at. So that's kind of like going into meditation. And of course, big part of it as well, and kind of like you mentioned earlier, is um, it's about coming into the heart. And that sounds so maybe abstract because, what I feel like before you come into the heart, you're like, well, what does that even mean? Or like, it sounds like it could just be like some kind of a phrase, but it's a real thing because in your mind, we're kind of programmed to be super, super, super intellectual. And that's a great tool as well, but it's very limited. And it's the intellect that will, um, a lot of times actually stop you from channeling because to channel, you have to be able to tap into what people call your imagination. And, we're kind of also programmed to think, oh, imagination is just making stuff up. When you're being able to tap into your imagination and your creativity, that's actually how your higher self will communicate. And your higher self can communicate, very deep concepts to you through whether it's symbolism, images, pictures, feelings, sensory. It's very sensory for most people, I would say. It's like you just, like when you really start to, if you can close your eyes, and it's a practice, and you begin to clear those really analytical thoughts, that like beta state thoughts, like just constant. Um, a lot of times it's very analytical, it's very critical, it's very like, I'm supposed to be feeling this, or why am I not feeling that? And, if you get really sucked into those thoughts, you can have a hard time sometimes like connecting to that more fluid, creative channel. So that's kind of, I think, the hardest practice is just beginning because you don't want to fight the analytical part because then you're just gonna get sucked into it. I think the key is just observing it and letting it be, and then continuing to focus and focusing in on the heart. So that means focusing in on your being, just feeling. And it's actually not so much like an active doing as much as it's an allowing, it's a softening into, it's more feminine. This is just my experience. So I guess that's kind of, for beginners, is like beginning to ask and intend for it, because when you do that, it will start coming in more. You start consciously doing that like every day or as often as you can, and start practicing being the observer and observing your analytical thoughts without getting sucked into them, and then allowing yourself to just play, just play. There's all kinds of different exercises and techniques you could try. The easiest one probably being just imagining yourself at a beach or on a mountain or somewhere beautiful, and allow you, like a child, like allow yourself to play, allow yourself to just explore and be curious, with no judgment, and see what happens, and then at the end of it, you might be amazed at what you're able to discover, because anything you imagine, any symbols, any animals, anything that comes up will have a deeper meaning for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been practicing this kind of receptivity is a word that I use to kind of explain it a little bit for myself. So I like to go try to go into a meditation with that open, surrendered state and like try to, I guess, okay, the first thing I wanted to mention is that babbler, the monkey mind, the chatter, you can kind of look at it as watching clouds. You don't attach to the thoughts. Obviously, it's like you can't shut down the chemicals in your mind. It's almost like you can't really turn the mind off, but you can get that observational distance. You can distance yourself from them so that you're not like your ego is not attaching to that. And it's interesting. So there's like this separation of that chatter, and then you go into this what I would call the placid waters. And so the way I visualize this really serene state is like you see a pond, but there are absolutely no ripples. It's a pond, it's a mirror. And as soon as you have a thought, the mirror creates ripples in the pond. But as soon as you can get really still and in that centered spot, that balance point, the pond turns into a mirror and reflects the heavens. So you have as above, so below inside of your meditation. And that's one of my cool visualizations that I like to go into. I have a special pond in my third eye realm, that place of imagination. And the idea of channeling isn't really something I went and sought out or tried to study. It's like as I've meditated since 2000, almost every single day. I have a rigid, not rigid, but I have a daily spiritual practice where I check in and and get up early in the morning and do my breathing and do 30 minutes of silence and get my thoughts on a piece of paper, and then I can go out and tackle the day. So that channeling aspect is something that just came to me because it's like sometimes I have such a big idea or such a great idea, I know it's not for me. And it's like if I can capture those and put them on paper or get them in a digital format, it's like I feel like I've plucked gold or gemstones from the ether. And it's like sometimes I'm really good at it and sometimes I'm really terrible at it. Sometimes I'll go 6 months without capturing one of those ideas. But the book that I'm working on is really just trying to have a whole book where those types of ideas are present. And so that's obviously one of the reasons I got into your activating the clairvoyance course, just so that I could get a foundation. It was really just super well done. All right, we're back. Session two, part two. We were just wrapping up a little bit of information about our topics around channeling and kind of getting into that feeling center and kind of separating out the monkey mind and the babbler that we have to confront daily. At least I know I have to. It took me a really, really long time to finally kind of find that still point, that what I would call that placid waters. Some people would call it like a 0 point meditation where you really find the stillness. And so you're just saying that that's kind of where, if I can kind of achieve that state, that receptivity, that surrender, that's where you're kind of directing me to go.
Yeah, definitely. A really good analogy would be like if you're at a movie theater and people are talking next to you, but you're still focusing on the movie. That's kind of a good analogy for when you hear those thoughts going on. It's like, okay, don't fight them, don't want to resist them. Just let them go and keep focusing, your energy on your being, on your vision, on what it is you're doing. And then the other thing I was going to say that is also really helpful in this, everyone's different, but for me it was instrumental, was the writing, was the automatic writing, whether it's having like a having one of these experiences where it might be something really, really simple, again, if you're like a beginner, where maybe you just had a vision that you were like again on a beach or watching the water. Even if it seems really simple, write it down, because once you write it down, it feels more real, and you might actually be surprised at the details. Write down every detail. You might be like, wow, it'll feel like a dream. You can actually, it's a lot like a dream. And so when you do this kind of stuff, you can access the same kind of knowledge and wisdom within yourself as you would a dream. It's just, I guess the thing is that being your imagination, it might feel like you're making it up, but over time it'll just start flowing, and it won't feel forced. So and then also writing just in general, like you mentioned, automatic writing, um being the first step would be, just getting like a pen and paper or whatever, and just letting yourself write whatever. No filter, like don't judge it, don't even think about it. Just, it could be the silliest thing ever, just write, just like don't think about it, just go. And once you practice that, like flowing, you can kind of get creative with that, because that opens up a lot. Once you're able to kind of do that, one, you might be surprised at what comes out, even if it is really silly, like the squirrel jumped over the log or something like that. It still probably has some kind of symbolic reason it came out. And two, you can start asking more directly your higher self to come through with messages. And I guess like that's just practicing that muscle. It's like a muscle of not having that constant critical analytical mind, just allowing yourself to play like how children do, because children are geniuses naturally.
Yeah. Yeah, back to Buckminster Fuller, he says everyone's born genius and the civilization de-geniuses us, and it's our responsibility to re-genius ourselves. So I love that part, definitely. And then kind of like thinking about, it's like when I track my progress, it's like when I was a senior in high school or a freshman in college, it's when all these ideas would come out on paper. And I did start writing out and doing stream of consciousness, is what we called it back then. It was stream of consciousness writing. And I have journals upon journals and notepads upon notepads about concerning that kind of idea, where I would just kind of go into my meditation and come back out, in a different headspace. And then all of a sudden, just the most amazing thoughts. And I'm just like, that is awesome, but I can't manufacture it. So it's like I just have to be in that allowing phase. And if the energy is right, the energy is right. And some days I can get a good paragraph. I'm writing my book one paragraph at a time because I want it to be infused with kind of this sentient energy. It's not just Richard, it's like my co-creation with the creatrix, what I call the imaginariums, like the aquarium, but the aquarium of the imagination. And so I have all these words that have come through various ways throughout the years, and it's fascinating to me, the whole thing. And then the other thing that's just super fascinating to me, and I know is real, is this distance healing, this sending energetic, or I've heard people say golden light codes, really tuning into someone's energetic signature and helping them to heal an ankle. Or even a friend of mine right now is just, she got attacked by a cat and it's no bueno. So I've been
Oh,
sitting
wow.
trying to send, golden light codes of healing her way. Can you speak about your practice and not obviously your clientele, but what is it that you do? What are your services in that energy healing, and just how do we get tapped into that so that we can offer you know, those energies to people in need?
Yeah, absolutely. Because this is very similar to channeling, because when you're doing Reiki, you're actually, not so much channeling. Um, I mean, sometimes you channel messages, but messages will come through, but it's more like you're just channeling like pure, whatever you want to call it, pure God force energy, pure source love light. Again, we
Not
have,
sure. I can't hear you.
oh,
There, hold on. It could be my side. Let me move. Go ahead.
can you hear me? Okay.
Uh huh.
So it's similar to like channeling, like we're talking about channeling information. It's like that. You want to get in, you kind of learn how to get into that state. And literally anyone can do this. Um, Again, it's just the more you practice, the more you experience it, the better you get, like anything. So you kind of get into that similar state, like we're talking about with channeling. And you're just channeling pure source light, pure love light. You're more being a vessel. It's not so much like when, for example, when I'm doing Reiki, it's not so much my energy. It's more about my capacity to be a vessel for this God force energy to come through. And through my focus and my intention, I can focus that on somebody, who was asked for it, with their own free will. So it's kind of like, and again, anyone can do that. It's just a practice of and again, it's really important it's similar to prayer, because I've been a witness since I was young. I'm lucky. I've been a witness to the power of actual prayer, can help people immensely. Just, that pure loving energy, that pure loving and intent. So it's not about, like, the biggest thing is like, it's not about if you're sending love to someone, it's not about, because sometimes in our egos we want to try to change them or we want to try to control, and that's the opposite of what you're trying to do. It's not about that at all. It's actually just about complete love, sending complete unconditional love and light to that person, and that love is intelligent, so it knows where to go. Whether you know it or not, the love energy, it will know where to go. And as we continue to awaken, we find that we are energetic beings. So especially any physical ailment, any physical pain or disease, the more I go on this journey, the more I see that it's always an energetic manifestation first. So it's like the energy healing is such an amazing way to get to the core of it. There's always a lesson, there's always a message that really has to be mastered to heal that physical ailment, or you heal it before there is a physical ailment, ideally, if you understand, if you know this stuff.
Yeah, and when you're in tune with your body, you can tell when things are off. And then what I try to do at this point is really inspect my internal mental processes, because a lot of the things I read, I study the Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. They do the affirmative prayer or the spiritual mind treatment, and there's various formulas for it, but it really is a science. They're trying to really break it down for you on how to get into the right, recognizing the oneness of God and unifying yourself with that, and knowing that we are one with God, and therefore, because we know it, we know that that energy is creative. I love the way you just said that. That was beautiful. Like, it knows what to do. And then there's the whole receptivity part, where you have to be willing to receive, and then you have to have that gratitude piece where you're really grateful. And those are some of the things I've been studying in recent months, and just started doing affirmations. Simple things like, I live and experience infinite abundance, and I am financially free to do what I want, when I want, and how I want. And so I'm always working on this financial piece, and I'm working on becoming debt free. I don't know too many people in the world that are debt free right now, but I'm going to be one of them in about 3 or 4 months. So I'm putting so many amazing things into motion, but it takes time. It takes dedicated focus, and these spiritual practices are cumulative. They build up. So meditating every single day, do not miss. And one of my kind of analogies for this is, I'm not sure which musician I heard this from, if it's Miles Davis or it was some jazz musician. And he says, if I don't practice for one day, I know the difference. If I don't practice for 2 days, my band knows the difference. If I don't practice for 3 days, the audience knows the difference. And so that's just a quote that stuck with me for a really long time, but I applied that to my spiritual practice. So now I have a very disciplined morning spiritual practice, where it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. My alarms are going off, like 4 or 5 of them. Like, I'm making myself get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 2 hours to myself, to set the tone for the day. And so a lot of times I'll try to sense into that tone of the day. Like I even mentioned earlier, like, silent vitality was yesterday's tone for the day, and that just came through. I didn't go seeking that, I didn't go creating that, I just breathed through it, and sometimes that stuff comes through. So yeah, I just really appreciate your advice in that regard, and just kind of being a guide for me over the last year. Just really grounding me without getting too abstract. These spiritual practices are a toolkit, and really, I just want to encourage people to understand that the work we do in kind of the spiritual domain is cumulative, and you shouldn't be missing a day. So in that regard, my direct question to you is, do you have a spiritual practice that you keep up with daily or weekly, or would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I love hearing you talk about that. Honestly, it's so refreshing because it's so important, and it reflects back to me the beauty that I've been experiencing because, I have the same way. It's like sometimes I call it, it's like obviously I don't really go to like a actual like church, but I go to church every single day inside of me, every single day. I never miss it because like you say, and it's not like if I miss it, God is going to punish me. It's like if I miss it in a way, I'm punishing myself because I notice that I'm not as aligned. I notice, because I think when it comes down to what was coming to me while you were saying that, it's just like we are powerful creator beings. So it's like when you have that dedication that you're talking about of waking up and doing that, it's like you're really harnessing that. Like I am a conscious creator. I am creating my experience, and it's just so beautiful. So yeah, I'm the same way. For me, it's like I have to have that time at the very beginning of when I wake up to set the tone for my day. um there's various things I do. I kind of flow with it. There's certain things that, yeah, I pretty much do every single day. I wake up and I express my gratitude, and I put up my, what I call a shield, like my protective bubble to keep, anything that isn't any, for my highest good I feel like that's important. And, I say prayer for all of humanity and all the world. And I also do affirmations. So, these are the things that just make my heart grow and glow and make me happy. And it's like I feel ready to go about my day, whatever it is I'm going about.
Yeah, I just find that getting centered in that capacity really gives me the ability to tackle the kind of chaos that is about to ensue as you get out into the world and mingle with other people. And another, I kind of look at it as billiards or playing pool. You know, eventually we're going to bump into people if we get out into the world. So it's nice for me to have that kind of solitary place, you know, to kind of go into retreat. And being a hermit for the last 3 years has really been great on a lot of levels. I'm not complaining about it at all. It's been really nice to just totally go into a deeper place and to really focus on what's going to be in my spiritual toolkit, you know. And so really what I like to do is just talk about, you know, that practical stuff, you know, really getting into the breath for real, really learning to control and take our thoughts captive, you know, avoid all that self-limiting, all the stuff that you talk about, the looping.
Oh yeah.
I love your teaching on that. So if you want to talk about that for a minute on how easy it is for us to get stuck inside of the same thinking pattern. And I've broken myself from so many toxic thoughts to myself. And then, you know, it's all about self-love, right? So we have to accept ourselves where we're at. We have to accept others where they're at, and that's unconditional love. You know, people are people.
Yeah.
They've had their own experience. You have no idea what they're dealing with, what they're going through, where they've been, or where they're going. So yeah, that self-looping thought. Would you like to comment on that part?
Yeah, yeah. And kind of real quick too, just to add on to that, I think it's so important because again, everything is so nuanced, everything is so balanced. So it is like, yeah, completely accepting people and honoring where they're at 100%, and that they've had trauma. We've all had trauma, but at the same time, also having firm boundaries and not letting people use you as a doormat because that's not good either. I think a lot of people like us, it's like we're very empathic. So, you know, um, because I don't know, this is all connected because you made me speaking of like earlier, you're talking about the worthiness piece, and that is a hard one. That's one of my deepest wounds myself. I know a lot of people struggle with worthiness, and it's a thing that comes from trauma. It's like obviously like I know I'm completely worthy, I know that, but obviously the inner child and these things come up and you notice you have to do these healing things. And I guess as an affirmation of why that's so important, is can't remember. This is somehow connected to the question you asked. What was the question again?
The self-looping, you know, how we get
Oh yeah,
attached to the same thought and finding clarity. I had to identify my negative self-talk, and I had to
exactly.
grab hold of it and swipe left and replace it with a higher thought.
Right, right. And that's the biggest key is like observing it. Because that's part of what I was gonna say is that's part of like the society we live in, and I would honestly say like the mind control that we've all been a part of is it's so mental. Um that's really where like our greatest pain actually comes from is from the mind because the emotions, are that's they are painful, but the emotions will move through you very easily when you can learn how to just feel them and breathe through them and let them go. And it's like you'll feel like 10 times lighter. But it's the thoughts when your thoughts keep looping and what you resist persists. So it's like, oh, I shouldn't feel this way. Oh, I shouldn't feel this way. I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel this. And then that's when those loops keep going. And then you come up with stories like, oh, it's this person's fault. Oh, it's that person's fault. I'll never be good enough. I can't do this. And it can just turn into this really fast loop of like anxiety. So I feel like it's really the first thing is observing that, and you don't have to identify with that, actually really questioning your thoughts because a lot of thoughts aren't even your own thoughts. We can pick up on all kinds of things that are around us, whether you realize it or not. So it's being aware of that and questioning those thoughts. You don't have to, what you believe will be true. So you don't have to believe every thought you have. And, like you said, you can start to to create what you want to believe. So, there's different processes you can go through, but if you're feeling a lot of that pain, a lot of times that's the healing piece, is like you actually do have to find a way to feel it. Human beings, we really, a lot of us, we don't know how to feel our feelings. So, we'll project onto other people, or we'll try to repress it, or we'll try to escape it and all kinds of stuff. But ultimately, you really have to like, it gets to the point where people would literally rather die than feel their feelings, because like that's how intense the feelings are. And I have complete reverence and honor for that. I totally understand that. But I think part of awakening and being brave and um truly growing and evolving is you learn how to feel these feelings and just breathe through them and have honor and compassion for yourself and what you've been through, because it is very extreme. I mean, there's really terrible things that have happened. So it's like you got to really learn how to just allow yourself to feel that and have that compassion for yourself, because once that feeling, it will pass when you don't resist it. Um, and once that energy kind of flows through you, I've seen in my experience with myself and, my clients, people around me, it becomes way easier then to replace those thoughts and find new proofs for those thoughts, instead of thinking, living in the past. That's kind of a program in of itself, is like, oh, well, I've never had enough money, or I've always, your brain starts to come up with all these proofs, like, oh, I ran out of money. And your brain, that's how it works. That's how belief systems are. So a big part of then, once replacing the belief systems, is starting to find new proofs. Well, I don't always do have enough money. I'm still here. I still have a roof under my head. Start finding those proofs and focusing on those proofs. And we like this instant gratification, but in most cases it's not going to be instant. It's going to be, like you said, cumulative, but it is strong. Like, little things every day is so, I'm at a point in my life, kind of like, you were saying, Richard, where it's like, I look back and I'm actually just so amazed at how much these little things have accumulated in my life. It's like, and there's one more thing I kind of want to say on that note. For some reason, this is coming up, just talking about, creation or manifestation. Something I've really deeply been reminded of lately is that, so it's like, without going into too much depth, because there's such a huge paradigm shift taking place where, we used to completely, like, because we were so in survival mode when we were asleep, and that's, you know, it's not really anyone's fault. Like, obviously it's your responsibility, but that's literally just how we were programmed in this society. um Being in survival mode so much, not even realizing that you're constantly acting out of fear. And that's really just how the 3D world is. You're constantly having to control everything and force everything, and that's how you were able to manifest, and it worked. But I'm finding in this new energy, it's like, it's a completely different, like, control panel as you beginning to surrender into the higher self. It's not that you're doing anything wrong, it's that you're literally evolving. So you're literally going from being in this more survival mode, um, mechanism, to being into this higher self mechanism, which is a lot more, again, about kind of like flowing and surrender. And as far as creation, it's like, when you intend things, like whatever it is, whether it's abundance or, relationships or success or, channeling very clearly, whatever it is you're creating, it's like, it's done. Like, it's literally done. It already exists. It's already a timeline that exists. You don't have to fight for it. You don't have to control it. You don't have to force it. You don't have to worry about it, because it actually already is there. And I've learned this through my experience. Because when I look back years ago, I was trying to manifest right where I am now. So it's a fact, that when you do this every single day and you keep doing what you need to do, it might not be instant, but you will create that for yourself. So, just, I guess, an affirmation of it's worth it.
Yeah, beautiful. Just so awesome. I love all of that. A lot of my studies take me to this idea of the seed, the soil, and the plant. And obviously, one of the pieces in a plant's growth is that time piece, the latency. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody has a microwave and everybody can get fast food. And I don't have a microwave. That's another fun fact for me. But it's just amazing. You do have to take a moment, and I like to do this every year. Some people do, but like really take stock of your progress because you just don't see it every single day. But then when you take a moment or a week to go, wow, look what I did in the last 12 months. Holy crap. There's some big moves happening, and I love that I really appreciate you pointing out that there's kind of a new energy to manifesting right now. It's not so much effort. It's not so much just
Mm.
grinding through like 60 hours a week. I mean, that's what I'm doing right now, just for a time. I'm not trying to set up my life that way. If anything, I'm trying to exit the matrix one Netflix subscription at a time. You know? um, and I'm trying to shift into, instead of consuming content, creating content with people collaboratively, like we're doing today, or via emails and just sharing ideas. Like there's so much that is going on, and it's just so endless and so vast. It's just, I feel like we're so close. Like this heart space for humanity is like right there. Why can we not like lockstep that into our structures, our systems? It doesn't make sense to me, and that's okay, because
Right.
I have a vision and of the future, whether it's going to be right or not. That you, even in one of your videos, I can't remember the title. Towards the end of a video, you actually asked everybody, like, you have to visualize the future that you want. What does it feel like? What does it smell like? What does it sound like? And like ever since I heard that, I've had this aha, like I can go psychedelic in my imagination just thinking of this one prompt that you've given me. And it's so right on. Like we have to vision our lives. That's why I have that word visioneering. You're engineering our life with vision. And you have to know what you want. You have to have a big enough why, and you have to just keep on trucking. Like there's no such thing as giving up. That's just not even a thing. And so it's just beautiful. I mean, the energy is like, I call this time the quickening, because I
Mm.
literally feel like a rebirth every day. I mean, every day. And I also like to tell people that, I think the only thing that really exists is the now moment. And so people who are stuck in the past, you're literally not like separating yourself from that now moment, dragging that baggage in front of you, and then projecting it like a mirror onto other people that don't even deserve that energetic whatever. So only by healing ourselves and living in the moment from that heart space are we going to see multitudes really just like start to get it. Because like I feel like it's just like a piece of paper away, the thin veil on how we can actually be human beings and thrive, get out of survival, turn the world into livingry instead of weaponry. The whole Tesla dream. One of his quotes is, he didn't work for his generation, he worked for the future. And I feel that in my bones. Like I feel like the work we're doing, collectively is really going to reverberate throughout, thousands of years. And hopefully the right ideas get attached to the right systems. And I don't know, we got to work on this greed piece. We got to work on that scarcity mindset that causes people to want to have everything for themselves.
I got so many goosebumps that whole time you were talking. That's a huge truth response. Thank you. It's like a million thoughts on that, but I'm glad you reminded me of that. Honestly forgot I even said that, but that's so true. As visualizing your life and for the collective, because we are powerful beings like that, and that's in fact the black magic spell that we've been under. Is that we've been. That's why the mind control works, is because we've been creating. That's the real piece of it. It's not the people, the dark leaders or whatever. It's the fact that we the people have been manipulated in allowing and creating this scarcity paradigm. So it's like we have, that's why the power is within us to create an abundance paradigm. And that's the real rebellion. That's the real work we're doing. And it's like, and the beauty is, even if you feel like, oh, I'm just one person or we're just two people, it's like the more you take the time to, do like these practices you're saying of truly being awake, being present, being aware, you and everybody can do this, but it's like you start accumulating more power, and power isn't a bad thing, especially when I say the Trinity is like love, wisdom, and power. You have more power, so you have more influence in your life and in the collective. So it's like when you have that power and you pray for humanity and set these intentions for humanity, it's like it really does have an effect. And I'm also definitely feeling it. I'm definitely seeing it. We're at another one of those pivotal points, and it's like I think humanity has been so comfortable that they just don't want to change. And I think we're starting to see that there's really no other option. There's literally no going back to the old world. It's like that whole old world is going to continue to just completely collapse. And it's might be scary, but that's the beauty of it, is because it we have better things in store for us. We have a world that we're creating of true freedom, true peace, true abundance, real love, real unity. That's what we're creating. So it's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing. You said something there that brought up another term I used to talk about, the inflection point. It's like there's a point, there's like this buildup of energy of change, and then just to bring in one of my favorite lyrics, change occurs when the pain of doing the same thing is worse than the fear of change. And so that's the Walking Papers. The Whole World is Watching is the name of that song. It's a good track. But there's this buildup of energy, and then there's this inflection point where people's behaviors start to change, and it's only a handful of people at a time, and maybe 1,000 people here and 1,000 people there. But then you hear about that 100th monkey effect, where those monkeys accidentally dropped their sandy fruit in the water to wash it off, and then monkeys on neighboring islands that didn't have any physical contact started doing the same thing. So if we can start embodying these states of being, there's the 100th human effect, and then there's the resonance. You've all seen the tuning forks that vibrate. One tuning fork goes, and then all of a sudden that tuning fork's going. Our hearts are doing that. Our hearts are tuning forks. We need to send the signal out, and there's nothing anybody can do to stop it. If you're in that space, people know it, they feel it, and they respect it. And if we can get the collective on that chain, I think change can happen so quick. And I think that's what's happening. I think the chaos of what we're seeing is just people are just like, oh, dude, I'm done with it. I'm swiping that left.
Yeah.
I'm swiping that left, and now I'm focused on the things I'm passionate about. So
That's so amazing. You just made me think too, because it's a so full circle. Because the medicine really is in the heart, and because like we were talking about before, like the looping in the mind, you can sit here and you can intellectually debate anything to a T. And I think we've all learned this because so much naturally, there's so much chaos the past couple of years, so much fighting and bickering. And, sometimes it doesn't even matter. Something can be very obviously true. And like, it's like this what is it, battle of wills. It just doesn't work. It's like, so, but the real medicine is in the heart, because it's like when people actually feel that love, their perception can change in an instant, and like intellect can't always do that, but the heart medicine literally can change people's perspective in an instant. It's like it's the most powerful thing I've ever seen, because the virus, this virus of fear, it's in the mind. It's like the heart is just the natural medicine that brings us together and brings us back into harmony with ourselves and with the earth.
yeah, I've seen, heard some things about how heart is the transmutation device, and so when you bring in that piece about, we really have to feel in order to kind of release our traumas. We really have to accept that it's an uncomfortable feeling. We have to accept that it may not have been the best situation. We have to accept whatever happened in the past, whatever might happen in the future. But we have to go through that and practice that in order to transmute these things quicker. And I think that it's taken me 20 years to get to a point where I can actually understand and embody what you're saying about. In order to process it, we have to allow it to wash over us and to get into that healing space. And so I just love all that stuff. It's just really helped me out a great deal over the last year. And I just look forward to following you and watching more of your YouTube videos. I mean, I just love your content. I think you're just one of the exceptionals. Probably put you in the muse category of somebody directly influenced. And so just being able to get on and talk with you for a short hour is just fantastic. I look forward to the next Zoom meeting that you host, the next mass meditation, because that's the other thing. I think the mass meditation really has a real and lasting effect. And I just love that you do that, and your guided meditations for my breathing. It's awesome. You've been awesome, and I just thank you so much for your vulnerability and your intellectual courage. And if you would like to come back here every 6 months with an energy update and a Richard and Reagan show, we can do that.
It'd be such an honor. It's been so fun, honestly. I feel like we could go on for hours. So definitely would love to join you again. Thank you so much. This is awesome.
Well, you are so welcome. And again, just we start with where we end and we end with where we start. We're saturated with gratitude. I just want to pass that on to as many people as possible. Reagan introduced me to that concept. Just a
Shout
little.
out to Mau Mau. He introduced me to
Oh,
that.
absolutely. Okay, well then shout out to Mau Mau who gave me a wonderful birthday song. So thank you for that. And and just thank you for the Claire Voyagers, because I wouldn't be here without that community, without Reagan taking the lead on that. Again, we'll find all that stuff in the description behind the video, and I just thank you so much, and I cannot wait to do it again. But I think number 3, Pneuma of Now, is in the books. So until
Yes.
next time,
Until next time, thank you so much, Richard.
you're very welcome. Thank you.